Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Backcourt Press NBA talk show / podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Manicure, my co-host, Zach Finchie. Say hello.
What's up, everyone?
Today has been exciting and crazy if we're going to talk NBA. Trade deadline ends in T-minus an hour, roughly 15 minutes, and it's getting exciting. We've seen multiple trades go through. We're going to actually push off our trade deadline talk for a good 15 minutes just so we can talk about other present day stuff. As if any of you guys have watched in the past, we just finished up a series where we ranked all 30 NBA franchises from worst to first. And now today we are back to the present day NBA talk. Thank you all for tuning in. We already have comments, even though we just started live stream, which is pretty crazy. But real quick, before we get started, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Backcourt Press. We have been popping off recently. We just hit over 1,000 followers, which is super exciting news. We try and post daily there. Pretty exciting stuff happening on the Instagram page. Follow us on Twitter at Backcourt Press _. And then just subscribe and like the YouTube channel. You know, we do these weekly. Unfortunately, we didn't get to it Tuesday due to, it was a nice day out, so we both wanted to go outside. But we're here today for the trade deadline discussion. So without further ado, I say we get right into talking about present day NBA.
Yeah, this is basically going to be a live stream of the last hour of the trade deadline. I'm literally just have my phone right here, Twitter, Woj and Shams, just waiting for the notifications to come through. So, of course, if any updates come through, we will mention it.
Exactly. So before we get started, with the trade deadline talk, let's talk about just other things going on in the present day NBA. And I'm going to start, I'd say we start with the bad news because there's been a lot of recent stuff that's gone on that I don't think any NBA fans like to talk about, and that is injuries. Right now, the NBA is so injury prone. It seems like a bunch of the big names are out, including LeBron James, Anthony Davis, obviously Steph Curry's even out. LaMelo just got hurt for the rest of the year. Obviously, the MVP of the league, Joel Embiid, has been out for a little bit. And I just wanted to talk about how much does this affect viewership in the league, and like what do you think? Do you think it was because of the shortened off season? Do you think it's because of the 72 games, so players might be playing a little bit more, or just bad luck kind of stuff?
The NBA isn't a league where you get viewers. Let's be real here. In the regular season, the NBA does not get viewers. Even in the playoffs, the NBA isn't really that much of a viewership generator, I would say. And I think a lot of that has to do with just players sitting out, players injured, all of this stuff. I mean, you watch an NBA game and 95% of the time, a star player is going to be out on one of the two teams. And just the fact that there's this year, 72 games in a season, a lot of times like a one NBA game isn't going to make a huge impact on a team's season. So with that, viewership numbers honestly are low, and it doesn't surprise me. And I don't see that trend changing anytime soon. We just have to accept at this point, the NBA is nowhere near as popular as, say, college basketball or the NFL or other sports like that.
Yeah, of course. With March Madness going on too, it's crazy that we have the trade deadline in March Madness, all this amazing stuff happening in basketball right now. As March Madness so far has been super exciting, and I know especially for you down at Syracuse University, it's been pretty exciting
Sweet
as they're about to play. Yeah, sir, against Houston. It's good. It's a pretty even matchup. If I had to say, I'm very excited for that game. But going back, injuries have been really, really affecting the league. I know we just talked about some of the top stars that are out, and even Klay Thompson's out for the rest of the year. We just have so many big names that we're not going to be able to see play as much for the rest of the season. So with players going out, I guess we'll start with one of the award races, which is the Rookie of the Year award. I think LaMelo Ball was the clear favorite for the Rookie of the Year award. And now he's probably going to end up falling out of the conversation. So, I know there were other guys like Emmanuel Quickley, Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards has been making a beautiful name for himself recently. Who do you think is going to win the Rookie of the Year award now that LaMelo is gone or out of the race at least?
It went from a one-man show to another one-man show because it was LaMelo Ball up here, Anthony Edwards kind of in the middle, and then everyone else way below. You can pretty much hand it to Anthony Edwards at this point. I don't think anyone can steal it from him at this point. Over his last 10, 15 games, I think he's averaging 25 points per game. He's emerged as their best player over the past 15, 20 games. I'm a huge fan of Anthony Edwards. I think he's going to be a stud in this league. The more I watch him, the more big of a fan I am of him. And everyone was clowning on the Timberwolves for not taking LaMelo. I think at this point it's pretty clear that the two best players in the draft are easily LaMelo and Edwards. So I think that was a great pick by the Timberwolves.
Exactly. It's going to be really interesting to see if a guy like Tyrese Halliburton or even like a Patrick Williams could step up a little bit and start making it a little bit of a closer role. I hate saying Patrick Williams' name, but he has been playing very solid this season. But I think Tyrese Halliburton, I watched him a little bit last night against, I forget who they were playing against, the Kings. But Tyrese has such great basketball IQ, and I think for going 12th overall, I'm really, really impressed by his play so far. I think his fit next to De'Aaron Fox is great. I'm surprised that the only trade the Kings have made so far is shipping off Nemanja Bjelica to the Miami Heat. I was really expecting this team to possibly do like an Orlando Magic type deal where they trade Bagley, possibly Barnes, possibly Hield. But so far, with 45 minutes to go now in the trade deadline, the only trade they've made is shipping off Bjelica. But I think the rookie of the year race is going to be interesting.
The more I watch Halliburton, the me of just Malcolm Brogdon. Like to me, they're literally the same player. I mean, Halliburton's a guy who can play point guard or shooting guard, and he'll thrive in either role. He's a very good shooter, very high basketball IQ, great playmaker, solid defender. It's just, I don't know why Halliburton just gives me such Brogdon vibes. I feel like if I was watching them both side by side, I wouldn't be able to tell which one's which is a very good sign for the Kings. And that was a great draft pick because Brogdon's turned into a great point guard. So
once the Kings get some, coaching stability and maybe some better players around Fox and Halliburton, because we know Fox was one of the all-star snubs in our opinions this year, and Halliburton's looking to be a player for the rest of his career. I think they really do need to go young, though, and start shipping off guys like Barnes and Hield.
Absolutely.
I know Hassan Whiteside's also been in trade rumors recently, so we'll see if the Kings end up making any more moves.
Yeah. And also, I want to point out an update from Shams on the Kyle Lowry situation. Apparently, there's a holdup right now. The Lakers are the number one team in contention for him right now, but the holdup is the inclusion of Talen Horton-Tucker on the Lakers end and Tyler Hero on the Heat end. Could we see Tyler Hero in a Lakers uniform next week? That would be insane. I would never have expected that.
Yeah. No, me neither, but who knows? The trade deadline is going to be crazy. We'll get into it right after I talk one more other thing I would like to discuss. And, I mentioned earlier we have guys like LeBron and Joel Embiid out with an injury right now, which just makes that MVP race even closer than it was before. Now we have really guys like Nikola Jokic, James Harden. We've seen Giannis absolutely going ballistic in recent games and just carrying this. I believe the Bucks are on an 8-game win streak right now. They've won
14 of their last 15 too.
I mean, yeah, good for Milwaukee. Yep. They've known to be a regular season team. Who, in your opinion, I know Embiid's only missed a good, I believe, 5 to 6 games. Who is still in your MVP race, and who do you have up top, and who do you think is slipping out because of this?
Embiid is slipping out. I think Embiid is out of the top 5 at this point because the Sixers have now won 5 of their last 6 without Embiid, which may be showing that he isn't as valuable as people originally thought. Ben Simmons has been playing fantastic in this run. Tobias Harris is stepping up. Pretty much the Sixers look like the same team out there, even without Embiid, and they're just cruising through these teams. They almost beat the fully healthy Milwaukee Bucks the other day. They lost in overtime. And they beat a number of other decent teams like the Spurs. They beat by 30 the other day, and the Knicks as well. But I think right now it's a 2-man race. I think it's Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I don't think anyone else even comes close to those two. Sorry to Dame and Harden, but the impact that Giannis and Jokic have on their teams right now is just ridiculous. And if you took either one of them off their squads, they are just – those teams are bottom 5 teams in their conference. I mean, I saw you posted something on our Backcourt press story earlier today about Jokic. He leads the team in points, rebounds, steals, assists, field goal, literally everything. I mean, if that doesn't define valuable, I don't know what is. Statistically, he's having, according to basketballreference.com, they throw a bunch of numbers together and statistically give the best regular seasons of all time. Jokic is currently having the 3rd greatest regular season of all time, only behind Michael Jordan and LeBron James, who each had one of Jordan's in the 80s seasons and I think one of LeBron's seasons in the late 2000s, which just shows how ridiculous Jokic has been this year. Really, the only thing holding him back is team record, but the Nuggets are the 5 seed currently. I think they're toggling between the 5 and 6 right now, which if Russell Westbrook can win it as a 6th seed, I think Jokic is having – I mean, you don't say this about many guys, but I think Jokic is having just as big of an impact on the Nuggets this year as Westbrook had on those Thunder. So, to me, he's the clear leader right now. But I don't think you can rule out Giannis at all. Giannis currently leading the Bucks again, points, rebounds, and assists. He's second in blocks and second in steals as well. Overall, third in the entire league in player efficiency rating, just behind Jokic and Embiid. And he looks just as good as he has the last 2 years in his MVP seasons. His stats are nearly identical to the last two, at least last year too, when he was a overwhelming favorite for MVP. So I think it's just voter fatigue at this point. If Giannis hadn't won it the last 2 years, I think he'd be the front runner right now. And also, another update from Shams: the Hawks and Clippers are in serious talks to send Rajon Rondo to LA.
Very interesting stuff as we finish up our award race discussion and regular present day talk. I know we talked about the injuries and everything, but now the moment everyone's been waiting for, we're going to get into our trade deadline discussion. We have 40 minutes left. We're planning on staying live for at least the next 40 minutes, possibly up to the next 45, 50 minutes until after the trade deadline, so we can discuss every last second trade that goes down. Make sure you give this video a like if you're on Facebook or YouTube. And just stay included. We have all the recent reports, and we are going to stay on top of our game during this. So without further ado, let's get into the trade that I woke up to. I went to practice, came back, woke up, and I saw that there was a blockbuster trade that happened, and that was the Pistons shipping DeLon. No, just kidding. The Chicago Bulls trading for Nikola Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu for Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter, and a 2021 top 4 protected first-round pick and their 2023 unprotected first-round pick. If you had to give a grade to possibly the Magic first, and then I'd say the Chicago Bulls, this has probably been the biggest trade to happen today. And so what are your thoughts on the trade? How do you think it impacts both teams?
I would say it's the second most important trade that's happened today, but we'll get to that in a second. Obviously, an all-star being moved is very, very important, and I give an A+ to the Bulls for that move. They shipped off Wendell Carter and Otto Porter, who in the last 3 years in Chicago have been nothing more than a third or fourth option on the team, haven't really shown much progression. I think Otto Porter has pretty much been the same player since when he entered the league in 2013. I really haven't seen any progression from him in those 8 years. He's a very good scorer, maybe a fourth or fifth option at best, though. And Wendell Carter, since he's entered the league, very good defender, but undersized center. And I don't think he's the answer for the Bulls at center, which why bringing in Vucevic was huge help for them. This will secure the Bulls into the top 10 in the East. I think there's no way they will drop out of that spot now with two All-Stars, Levine and Vucevic. And it's very important for Chicago. This is a young team that hasn't gotten much playoff experience in recent years. So getting Zach LaVine that playoff experience, and some of the other guys, maybe Kobe White, if he sticks around in the next 40 minutes, will be huge for the Bulls and the future of that team. I still don't think they're good enough to beat a Milwaukee, Philly, Brooklyn, but maybe a Miami. I don't know. I think the Bulls are hugely improved by this trade, and I don't think they gave up as much as they could have. On the other end, the Magic, I'm not going to give them a bad grade on any of these. I'm just pretty much going to give them a B for this one because they're in full rebuild mode, and the fact that they're in full rebuild mode, they're shipping off their guys. No problem with that. I just think they could have tried to get maybe one of the bigger pieces out of it, maybe a Lauri Markkanen or a Kobe White or someone like that. One of the younger guys. If not a big deal for them. They got what they wanted of the first-round picks. No complaints.
Exactly. The Magic, they sit pretty low in the East right now. They've been losing games. And finally for the team that's, I swear, has been the 8 seed for the last 3-4 years, is finally going into a full rebuild mode. I think everyone's wanted to see Vucevic on a team that is not named the Orlando Magic, and we finally are going to be able to see that. I know there was a lot of Lauri Markkanen rumors and possibly him getting traded and moved. I think I'd stick it out this year with now Markkanen and Vucevic, and obviously they have their star player averaging upwards of 30 points per game in Zach LaVine, and that pick and pop between Vucevic and LaVine is going to be deadly for some teams. But I completely agree with what you have to say. You can continue.
No, and yeah, I just want to. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I do want to point out. I think Vucevic. I saw it today. He retired, not retired, but ended his Magic career as number 3 in win shares in Orlando Magic history. I think people don't really understand the impact he's had on this team. In my opinion, he's a top 5 player in Magic franchise history. Such a good impact for this team. I know a lot of Orlando fans are not happy that he's gone, or they're happy that the team is rebuilding, but sad to see him go. Really a great player. I think very underrated for this team, and I'm excited to see what he brings to Chicago.
Exactly. I think Billy Donovan really is going to know how to teach these young guys to grow with the veteran players. That's what he's been known for pretty much his entire coaching career. And so it's definitely going to be very interesting to see what the Chicago Bulls do, because hopefully they can sneak into that 7-8 seed, possibly through the play-in tournament, or even if they could get all the way up to the 6 seed, because I don't know. I think a Chicago versus Atlanta matchup at some point in the playoffs possibly could look very interesting. And I know you mentioned the Miami Heat. They tend to turn up in the playoffs, so I don't know how much we can look into that. But I know the Bulls they're going to be so lethal offensively, and if Patrick Williams he stays his efficient self, he takes his mid-range jumpers. We'll see if Kobe White stays the starting point guard of this team, or if Lonzo Ball or another player gets shipped to that team in the next 35 minutes. But right now, this team's looking lethal offensively.
Yeah, I mean, in the Eastern Conference right now, you have 3 teams who are a lock for the conference semifinals in Milwaukee, Philly, and Brooklyn. And then that leaves one more spot, which I feel like 6 or 7 teams are competing for right now. Boston, Miami, Atlanta, Chicago now, Indiana, Charlotte, the Knicks. So many good teams that are going to try to be winning a playoff series this year, and one of them are going to get it done. And Chicago is definitely making the push for it.
Exactly. We've seen a couple of the teams in that range of playoff seed looking to make trades to increase their chances of going up. As we saw, another Magic player that I would like to mention, Evan Fournier, got sent off to the Boston Celtics, a team that's been struggling recently and needed a really good wing playmaker and shooter off the bench to replace what Gordon Hayward brought to this team. I think everyone expected Aaron Gordon to be the move for Boston, but it ended up being Evan Fournier because of how cheap they got him for. They got him for just 2 second-round picks. I think that is an incredible steal. What do you have to say about the Evan Fournier to the Boston Celtics trade?
I don't know about an incredible steal. I wouldn't say it's that good. They didn't really have to give up much for him, which is great, but Fournier isn't really a piece the Celtics need. Out of all the things that the Celtics that have gone wrong for them this season, outside shooting is not one of them. And all they're getting with Fournier is someone who's a good outside shooter. But even then, he's fourth or fifth in their guard rotation right now with Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. I mean, sometimes they play Jason Tatum at the small forward spot, Peyton Pritchard getting minutes. I mean, out of all the things that this team needed, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, the Celtics have been garbage this year. I'm gonna say that straight up. Not even just saying that as a Sixers fan. It's been a disaster for the Celtics. You can ask any Celtics fan; they'll tell you it's been a disaster season for them. And out of all of that, really, all Danny Ainge is going to do is get them a bench shooter who will probably play about 20 minutes a game, score maybe 9 or 10 points per game for them. I don't know, man. I think Boston needs to do something else if they're going to really contend to win a playoff series this year. And Fournier is not really that. I'll give it maybe a C to a B range, C plus, B minus, something like that. They didn't really have to give up much for him, which was really nice. But overall, I don't think it really improves them.
Yeah, I mean, he right now for the Magic is a 20 points per game scorer, but obviously he's most likely going to be coming off the bench for this team, and his shots will, his shot selection will go down a lot, and it's just going to be very, very interesting to see how his fit is on the playmaking side of everything. And real quick, I just got an update that the Hawks are in talks with sending Rajon Rondo to the Clippers in a possible Lou Williams package, which, Lou Williams has been one of those Clippers players that it seems like really wanted to win the championship, was super excited when Kawhi and PG got there, but he might be getting shipped off possibly to Atlanta or a different team in a 3-team deal. But we'll come back to that in a little bit, as I want to finish off our Orlando Magic deal. Talk with Kyle Edwards. Actually, thank you for the comment. Talking about Aaron Gordon to the Denver Nuggets. We talked about Jokic for the MVP. Well, they got themselves a new starting power forward to replace Paul Millsap in Aaron Gordon. What are your thoughts on this, on the Nuggets trade, and how do you think that this impacts their playoff success possibly?
I'm giving an A+ to both teams on this trade. I think both of them did fantastic with this. The Nuggets took a huge step back this offseason when they lost Jeremy Grant, who was probably the third most important player on that conference finals run last year. Defensively, the only reason they beat – I honestly would argue that he was the most important player in that Clippers series because of the defense he played on Kawhi Leonard, especially in Game 7. It was amazing to see as a former Syracuse guy to see him having that big of a role in the West in a huge Western Conference series. And then they lost. They didn't re-sign him to Detroit and lost him to Detroit. Obviously, Denver has been nowhere near as good this year as they were last year, and I think a large part of that is the loss of Grant. So bringing Aaron Gordon in, while he doesn't have the defensive impact, that Grant had. He's a better offensive player, and I think he'll work really well with Nikola Jokic in the passing game. And also, officially, Hawks trading Rajon Rondo to the Clippers straight up for Lou Williams.
Wow, that's a shocking deal, honestly. They needed a playmaker. Let's jump into that really quickly. Just a quick turnaround of events. Thoughts on Lou Williams getting shipped out of the Los Angeles? Anything?
Yes, it was also, as the deal has come through, 2 second-round picks as well to the Hawks for Rajon Rondo. Both Rondo and Lou Williams have been fairly invisible this year. Lou Williams went from a 6th Man of the Year candidate to a guy who's averaging like 10 points per game or something. He's been utterly useless for this Clippers team this year. It's been amazing to see the downfall that he's taken over the last couple of years. I think this is a great trade for the Clippers. I've been saying all offseason they needed a point guard. I've been saying all season they needed a point guard. Kawhi Leonard cannot play without a good point guard. It's been a known fact. He had Tony Parker, he had Kyle Lowry, and then Patrick Beverley is not the answer for that. So getting a guy like Rondo, who's a true high basketball IQ guy, great point guard, great defender, could have maybe gone for better, but I still think this is a great fit for the Clippers because this will elevate Kawhi and PG a lot. You saw PG when he was playing with a great point guard in Russell Westbrook, had his best season of his career. I think this is going to elevate both of their games, and I think this elevates the Clippers into contention for the Western Conference, which I would not have put them in before.
Yeah, I just got Lou Williams actually got commented on his Instagram page, and someone commented, you're about to get traded with a bunch of emojis. And then next thing you know, he did get traded, and he said that this is possibly going to be his last stop, and that Lou Williams we might be seeing Lou Williams' last month of ever being in the NBA now, from what his comment says. I get traded, it's going to be to Lou Willville, LOL. So who knows if this might be the end of Lou Williams' career. I know he's been 6th Man of the Year every single year. What an incredible career. We'll probably, if he ends up retiring, we'll probably just end up making a post about him on Backcourt Press. But this is an interesting trade. We all know about playoff Rondo and how impactful he was on that Lakers team last year, and now he's going to the other LA team to play with. Kawhi and Paul George. Kawhi's been begging for a playmaking point guard, and instead of getting Lonzo, Kyle Lowry, George Hill, they settled for Rajon Rondo, which is very interesting. I really hope his fit next to Kawhi and PG ends up working really well. And I know Rondo was barely getting any minutes in Atlanta, so it's good to see now that he will be getting some valuable minutes for the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah.
But
it is just come out that Lou Williams will play for the Hawks this year. He will not be traded to a third team unless, of course, he does decide to retire.
Interesting. So there's our Lou Williams and Rajon Rondo talk. And let's go back to the Orlando Magic. They received in the Aaron Gordon deal, I believe it was R.J. Hampton, they received a veteran player Gary Harris to play the shooting guard position, and a first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. What are your thoughts on the Orlando Magic going complete rebuild mode, going around Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, and now they're just stacking up on first-round picks?
I love it. I love it so much. I'm a huge R.J. Hampton fan. He's had very limited minutes this season, but when he's played, he looks like an NBA-ready guard. He looks incredible out there when in the limited minutes he's gotten, and I thought he was going to be a great asset for the Nuggets in the future. Obviously not, but that's a totally fine move for them for a team that's trying to contend and win now. Sending him to the Magic where he'll be able to play alongside guys like Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony, competing for guard minutes there, will be a great fit for him. And I think Gary Harris, a very solid, really good defender, solid wing player, probably start the rest of the season now in place of Evan Fournier. But overall, not the biggest piece of the move. The Magic got a first-round pick and RJ Hampton, who was a first-rounder this past year, which is basically 2 first-round picks for a guy in Aaron Gordon who had 0 future with the Magic. So very good deal for both teams in that one.
Exactly. And RJ will most likely be getting most of the point guard minutes for the rest of the season, as obviously Markelle Fultz is out. Cole Anthony recently, I believe Cole Anthony has injured as well. I remember there was a long period of time where Dwayne Bacon was running the point guard role for the Orlando Magic. Also, there was a new report that the Miami Heat are working on getting more than just Kyle Lowry as we speak. So there might be more going on in the Miami Heat, just coming off that championship run. Let's see if they end up making any moves and possibly moving young guys in their future and Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, and Duncan Robinson to possibly more of a win now situation with Bam and Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
So another trade. I know we have not talked about this yet, but there was I wouldn't say blockbuster trade, but a rising star, I would say, on the offensive side of the ball. Norman Powell has been averaging around 20 points per game for the Toronto Raptors, been having a fantastic year, even next to Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet. And next thing you know, he gets shipped off. I believe a lot of people expect him to be that Miami Heat, possibly New York Knicks shooting guard. Well, he gets moved to a team that just is going to add more shooting next to Dame and CJ McCollum in the Portland Trailblazers for a better 3-and-D player, I would say, in Gary Trent and Rodney Hood. Thoughts on this trade and thoughts on how it affects both sides?
Statistically, Norman Powell has had the 3rd best season this year shooting from the 3-ball, only behind Joe Ingles and Joe Harris. So I think that's a huge rise for them. I mean, you put him in an offense with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, Powell's probably the 3rd best scorer in that offense, where you'd be a top 2 scorer in pretty much any other offense. It doesn't really address Portland's defensive needs, but it just makes them that more dangerous offensively. I'll give them a B+ for this one, if not an A- or something like that. It doesn't address team needs, but overall, it's a really good pickup for them.
I completely agree. I think his shooting ability next to, I think he'll probably end up coming off the bench. I think CJ and Norman Powell are both, kind of guys that are too small to run that small forward position. So I'd probably stick with, the Derek Jones Jr. possibly being that 3-and-D type player. Carmelo Anthony even has been playing really, really good basketball in the 4th quarter in his mid-range jump shot. And hopefully when they get Yusuf Nurkic back from injury, he'll be – I remember in the bubble, Nurkic was one of the most fun players. It seems like he was putting up 20 games every other game for the Portland Trailblazers. So I'm hoping that he can come back, carry that center position load. And even they got guys like Enes Kanter off the bench who are just he's a pretty fantastic defensive player. And really quickly, I would just like to shout out my friend Kayla. Thank you, Kayla, representing Temple Gymnastics, who just won their past meet. But there's been a lot of trades going on, and we're going to continue discussing them. Going back to the Chicago Bulls, they made a smaller trade. I know we're going to go through kind of smaller trades that happen now, where Mo Wagner and Troy Brown Jr. for the Washington Wizards were traded for, I believe, Daniel Gafford and Chandler Hutchinson. What are your thoughts on just a smaller type trade like this for the Chicago Bulls?
I mean, it's just a swap of 2 young bench players for 2 young bench players, so it's hard to say right now who it's going to be. But out of those guys, Troy Brown's my favorite player in that trade. Troy Brown's my favorite player in that trade. I think he has such a high ceiling, as we saw when he was getting significant minutes with the Wizards last year. He was producing very well offensively, and I think he could be a very important bench piece for this Bulls team, or even contend for that starting small forward post now that Otto Porter is no longer going to be in Chicago. So I think that was a really good deal for them. I like him a lot more than Chandler Hutchinson as a wing. And then when you're comparing the big mans, Moritz Wagner and Daniel Gafford, I don't think there's a very big gap between the 2 of them. So I feel like that's just a swap. But I think the Bulls overall win this one because of the addition of Troy Brown.
It's funny. I actually had the opposite opinion on this trade, where I thought the Washington Wizards came out of here with a bigger W, just for the pure fact that I think Daniel Gafford is going to bring the minutes that Daniel Gafford has the potential to be a solid offensive player. We've seen him block a lot of shots for the Chicago Bulls, be kind of an off-the-bench defensive anchor for the Bulls that Wendell Carter obviously does not have, only being 6'9". And so I think Daniel Gafford is a very, very good center for the Washington Wizards next to, Russell Westbrook, who loves just feeding his center, his big men down low. I know we saw Thomas Bryant when he was healthy, just averaging like upwards of 15 points per game. When Thomas Bryant was having a pretty good offensive year going before his injury, and now they get Daniel Gafford to be the guy who will catch alley-oops from Russell Westbrook and hopefully get more rebounds for this team. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see if the Wizards end up making that playoff push. I know they've been a team of runs this year where they've gone on losing streaks.
They're not even close.
Thoughts on it?
You can count the Wizards out at this point. I think they've dropped down back to 13th in the West at this point. They've lost like eight or 9 of their last 10 or 11 or something along those lines. You can count the Wizards at this point. I'm sorry.
So thank you, Kyle, for this. This is you and Kayla are going back and forth in the comments, and I love it. So, there hasn't been many other moves made, but the next move I'm going to bring up, which Kyle commented a while back, there was Kyle Lowry rumors, Lonzo Ball rumors, and your Philadelphia 76ers ended up with George Hill for, I believe it was Terrence Ferguson, Tony Bradley, and 2 second-round picks, but Ferguson ended up getting shipped off to the New York Knicks for Austin Rivers, who is now going to OKC to replace George Hill. It seems like you guys really wanted that playmaking guard off the bench. He's probably going to end up taking minutes from Tyrese Maxey and players and Shake Milton eventually. Thoughts on this move for the Philadelphia 76ers? And I think you're not too happy about it.
Also want to point out that the Sixers did also get Izzy Brazdeikis from the Knicks as well in that trade.
I did text my coach.
I'm not thrilled. I like George. I think George Hill's a really good piece for this team. I'm not complaining about George Hill in general. He does make us better, and his scoring off the bench, his shooting, his 3-point shooting particularly is going to be the biggest impact for us. We can never have too many 3-point shooters on this team where 3-point shooters are huge. But I wanted Kyle Lowry, man. I wanted Lonzo Ball. I wanted the Sixers as currently constructed cannot compete with the Brooklyn Nets. And that's coming from a Sixers fan. If the Nets are healthy with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, we are not good enough to beat them in a 7-game series. I don't even think we could take them to 6 at this point. It's just so frustrating because Embiid, you never know how long Joel Embiid is going to be in his prime. Like, Joel Embiid could have an injury next year and be out of his prime the rest of his career. You never know how long centers are going to last. I mean, Dwight Howard was out of his prime by the end of his late 20s. So it just makes me frustrated because this could be the best season Joel Embiid ever has in his career. We have no idea. This could be his absolute prime. And we can't waste that. And I've heard the reports are saying that the Raptors were asking for too high of a price for Lowry. It would have included Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, Danny Green, and 2 first-round picks, which I gladly would have paid. I think because I think that move would have taken us from the second or third best. I think we're the third best team in the East. I think that would have taken us from the third best team in the East to the best team in the East, or literally neck and neck with Brooklyn. Kyle Lowry is a fantastic playoff performer. He's shown it in the past. He's a great leader, which is what the biggest thing the Sixers are missing right now is a veteran leader and a guy who can play make in the half court. I know Ben Simmons is probably the best fast break playmaker in the league. Not quite as effective in the half court. He's not as good at getting the entry passes down to Joel Embiid, which is why I really wanted Lowry or Lonzo to fill that role. It's frustrating because it makes us George Hill makes us better, but he doesn't make us that much better, and we're still not as good as Brooklyn. So I feel like Daryl Morey should have pulled the trigger on this one and gone all in.
Exactly. It's going to be hard to see how Philly matches up with, the Brooklyn Nets. They obviously have one of the best defenders in the NBA in Ben Simmons and another incredible defender, Matisse Thybulle. But, when you have such incredible offensive skill players like Kyrie Irving and James Harden and Kevin Durant, I don't know who would be guarding each one of them. And obviously the Nets issue would be who's going to guard Joel Embiid down low. But who knows? We have 16 minutes left now in the trade deadline, and it's crazy that it's just
Lowry.
No Lowry, no Victor
no
Oladipo,
Lowry,
no Lonzo
no
Ball.
Lonzo.
It is
I'm
crazy.
amazed.
But
those are 3 players. Those are 3 players I thought were a lock to be on the move. And another one I thought also had a good shot of being moved was John Collins, and we haven't seen anything on him yet. So, I mean, this could be a very exciting 15 minutes, or it could be a very disappointing 15 minutes. We will see.
Really quickly, I've been getting reports from Hoop Central and NBA Central that the Heat and the Houston Rockets are discussing a Victor Oladipo trade. I actually have a quick question for you because maybe this is just me. But real quick, Kyle Lowry update. The Miami Heat are not offering Tyler Hero and will continue to not offer Tyler Hero. So if they make Kyle Lowry get shipped off, it will have to be for a Duncan Robinson or even a Taylor Horton-Tucker for the Los Angeles Lakers. But
when are the Heat going to realize that Tyler Hero doesn't have that high of a ceiling?
Hot takes. We might talk about.
When are they going to realize that this is that Tyler Hero in the next this Tyler Hero in the next year's Tyler Hero are probably going to be his prime?
Wow.
I don't see him getting much better than he already is, or he's going to be next year. I don't know. I think Kyle Lowry would have added a lot more to that team than Tyler Hero would this year if they're trying to make a championship push. But that's just me.
Still crazy to me how Tyler Hero was valued so highly that they wouldn't even trade him for James Harden. And now we're looking back at it, and I think the Miami Heat and Pat Riley really, really made a mistake by not even trying to make that deal because the Houston Rockets got Victor Oladipo in first-round picks. The Miami Heat couldn't give them Tyler Hero first-round picks, which sounds way more amusing to me, in my opinion. But why do you think teams wait until the last 15 minutes to hour to 15 minutes of the NBA trade deadline to make deals?
I think it's the Raptors just trying to push it. They want everyone to outbid each other. They want to get the highest possible price they can, and then we'll see if it backfires on them to see if they don't even get to get rid of him. But it's just a classic trading technique. I do it in fantasy football all the time. You have people bid against each other, and then you sell the player for the highest price you can get. For the suspense. Thank you, Kayla. That's another one too. Really making it so that we're on our toes till the very end. Yep,
exactly. Hoop Central just came out with a tweet that said the trade offers for Kyle Lowry have been quote unquote underwhelming, and the Raptors are quote unquote comfortable keeping Lowry past the trade deadline. To me, it's crazy to me to think that these players are in trade rumors for so long, and then there's a chance that they don't even get traded. I could never imagine walking back to that locker room after not getting traded and just having to play the rest of the season out with that team. And even, Kyle Lowry might ask to get bought out. I know a lot of players are. It's crazy. We haven't even seen Andre Drummond's name once today. And yet he hasn't even played a game. We haven't seen LaMarcus Aldridge's name once today. He hasn't played a game. I'm guessing that these teams are just going to look to buy out and sign with bigger known players. But has there been a trade that you'd be excited to happen in the next 15 minutes? And who do you want to get moved? Where do you want him to get moved? Thoughts like that.
I want Oladipo on a contender. I don't really care what contender it is, but I think Oladipo could be a really good third option on a championship team. Whether that's the Heat, whether that's the Heat, I feel like would be a very good fit for him. I know that's the one that most people have been rumoring a lot. I also think low key, I think the Mavericks would be a really good fit for Victor Oladipo. Because he brings good veteran leadership to that young team. And he'd be a very good off guard for Luka Doncic that he could thrive off of. Those are the top two that come to mind. But man, I don't know. I'm trying to think of
what
other
about
things
something like
really
this happening. LeBron James to the New York Knicks.
LeBron James straight up for Julius Randle.
I was going to mention
who declines that.
If I'm the Knicks, no way I'm accepting that trade. Julius Randle is way too valuable for his season. But no, a team that, speaking of the New York Knicks, I'm surprised we haven't heard more about them recently. Oh, Hoop Central just tweeted this. This might put a smile on your face. The Sixers are reportedly still in the Kyle Lowry sweepstakes, but their current offer is their final offer, which is still Maxey Thybulle and the 2 first-round picks. So if they get no better trades, there might be in the next 12 minutes, we see a whole sweepstakes of Kyle Lowry getting moved to the Sixers. I can see you grinning and bite your lip a little bit because maybe that could still happen.
No, don't do this to me. Don't get my hopes up. I've already accepted that we're not getting Kyle Lowry. See, but now you've got my hopes up again. So now I'm going to be disappointed a second time if we don't get him.
A team that, speaking of the New York Knicks, I was expecting to see them in a lot of trade rumors. I know when I made my trade deadline post on Backcourt Press, I said both 2 good fits for the New York Knicks would be Victor Oladipo and possibly Norman Powell. And, the only move they made, Derrick Rose going to the Knicks, that happened a good, 3 weeks ago to a month, I believe now. And they really haven't made any more moves. I think this is a team that would that we expected to make another more move. They seem like they're in a win now situation, even though obviously they have a very little chance of going all the way to the finals. But I mean, this is a team on the uprise. They've had a great season so far. And is there any of these like I know there was the Lonzo Ball rumors, possibly Victor Oladipo, possibly a big man in like Miles Turner, Hassan Whiteside, or Andre Drummond going to the Knicks? Is there any one of them that intrigues you and to go into New York?
No, I don't think the Knicks should do any moves right now. I think the Knicks have to focus right now on making the playoffs. But I think the team as currently constructed is good enough to make the playoffs. And I think I mentioned, I don't know if I was mentioning this on the podcast last week or just talking with my friends. I get them mixed up, but I love the culture that the Knicks are building right now, and that's going to attract free agents in the future, just like the Nets did with the Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, D'Lo, Jared Allen days, and with the Clippers in the Lou Will, Montrezl Harrell days, Danilo Gallinari. I mean, the Knicks are building that culture right now. They're an amazing defensive team. They play with a lot of heart. They play very well. They're in a huge market. They're going to be attracting a lot of free agents in the very near future with the way they're playing this year. And I think all they need to do is make the playoffs once. And that's all they're going to need. And I think people are going to start to see that the Knicks are a turnaround team. So I don't think they need to buy out crazy right now, because I think they'll start to attract those stars again. I think the 20s are going to be a good decade for the Knicks. I think we're about to see the 90s Knicks back at it again.
Oh, hot takes from Zach Vinci on the Backcourt podcast with 9 minutes now remaining in the NBA trade deadline. But a player that we mentioned a little bit more, but I want to talk a little bit more in depth about is Lonzo Ball. He's had a fantastic year for the Pelicans this year. We've been waiting. For me personally, I remember we talked about the Pelicans in a couple of podcasts ago, and I said, why are they not looking to move Bledsoe instead of Lonzo? But it seems like Lonzo's the more the better trade piece for them. Do you see Lonzo staying in the Pelicans in the next 9 minutes, or do you see him getting shipped off to another team? And if he stays with the Pelicans, how's his effect going to be? And do you think he could be the future point guard for this team?
Well, the other day, the Pelicans said that they have no plans of keeping Lonzo Ball for the future, so I will be very surprised if he stays around in the next 10 minutes. They also said they want to give more minutes to Kira Lewis and to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, which are two very young guards who have shown a lot of potential this season, which I also think would be a very good move for them. The Pelicans are pretty much out of playoff contention this year. They have a chance to sneak into the play-in game against maybe jump the Grizzlies or the Warriors or a team like that. But as currently constructed, I don't think the Pelicans are really going anywhere. They need a little bit more development from Ingram and Zion for that to happen. They need good coaching, and they need to build good role players around those two. And they need to create better spacing on the floor, which I think will be good if they can eliminate Lonzo from that situation. I think it's best for the Pelicans to get rid of Lonzo, and I think it's best for Lonzo to get out of New Orleans.
Fair point.
Let's see Lonzo in Charlotte.
Oh, that'd
let's
be
get
funny.
the Ball brothers together.
I was gonna say, let's see Lonzo in Golden State next to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson next year. I've always been. I was really hoping that we would make that Kelly Oubre for Lonzo Ball trade. It doesn't look like it's going to happen now because the Warriors, another team that's been in a lot of rumors. Actually, as I say that, Hoop Central, not even 20 seconds ago, tweet, there's a lot of trade interest in Kelly Oubre up until the end of the trade deadline. So what are the odds that the second we start talking about him, we get that tweet? I was just going to mention the Warriors. I thought they were really going to make a push for Victor Oladipo to play next to Steph Curry at that shooting guard spot. But did you see the Warriors making any moves? And if so, what moves did you think they could make?
Mm-hmm. I think they should get rid of Kelly Oubre. I don't think he's a very good fit for that offense. I don't think he fits very well as a shooting guard next to Stephen Curry, just with the way he plays. And he's another guy who's he's had a very good defensive year, at least recently speaking. And I think if the Warriors want to be able to make the play-in game, I think they need to fit someone better next to Curry than a Kelly Oubre type player. To also update, Toronto is trading guard Terrence Davis to Sacramento for a future second-round pick. It's not really the update we were hoping for right now.
No, honestly, Terrence Davis was solid for that team last year. My guess is they're most. I know they also. We didn't talk about this at all, but the Utah Jazz got more shooting in trading for Matt Thomas from Raptors. It looks like the Raptors are just clearing up roster spots right now for the next 6 minutes. and clearing up roster spots for possibly getting a bunch of young players. Do you agree with the Raptors' moves in getting possibly young players and more draft picks and trading away Lowry? Or what do you think?
Oh yeah,
About, what do you think about the Raptors?
I think the Raptors are past their championship window. They won the one last year. They were okay. They overachieved a lot. They were nowhere near as good as their record showed. They were not the second best team in the East, not by a long shot. And this year they're being exposed for that being not a very good team. Fred VanVleet is a very important piece of that franchise, and I think everyone else is tradable for that team. Even Pascal Siakam, I think if they got rid of Pascal Siakam, I don't think that'd be that big of a deal for them. I know yesterday there were rumors that they might be trading him. I don't think it's going to happen, especially with everything going on right now. But yeah, I think right now they might be clearing up roster spots for a couple of young guys like Matisse Thybulle or Tyrese Maxey.
Hey, we never know. It's Terrence Davis. I want to talk about that to the Kings real quick as we hit the 5-minute mark left in the trade deadline. What are they going to do with Buddy Hield? It seems like they're just adding more guards. Tyrese, Terrence Davis, possibly Terrence Davis was just that fill-in spot just for a second-round pick. I think that's a fantastic deal for the Kings if you really look at it. But what are they going to do with Buddy Hield? He's voiced his concerns with the team in general. I personally would love to see it right now, a Kelly Oubre for Buddy Hield swap. I think Buddy Hield and Steph Curry would be an amazing fit next to each other in Golden State. But what are your thoughts on Sacramento?
Barnes back to Golden State too?
Not for $22 million a year.
Well, as we have discussed over and over again, the Kings really don't know what they're doing as a franchise.
We can never go a whole podcast, everyone, without ripping on the Sacramento Kings.
They deserve it. They truly deserve to be ripped on. So I'm not a fan. I love Terrence Davis. I think it's a good pickup, but I don't know why they need all these guards, man. Buddy Hield has to get out of there. Buddy Hield was fantastic his first 2 years in the league, and he has just declined since then. I think it's a combination of Walton's coaching and the organization not utilizing his talent to the best of their abilities. I've wanted Buddy Hield to be traded for about a year and a half now. I've started to lose hope in it. I don't know, man. I would love to. Ooh, update. New Orleans Pelicans are close on a deal to send J.J. Redick to the Dallas Mavericks.
Ooh, getting more outside shooting.
Seth Curry. Wow, I think that's a fantastic deal for Mavericks. I got to see what they're giving up.
Yeah. Real quick, Kayla seems to be a Kings fan. As she said, leave the Kings alone. They are trying their best. But no, that's interesting as you talk about by clearing up. Nope. Yeah, here I saw your face as you talk.
Lonzo Ball officially staying in New Orleans.
So there goes
He's not being moved.
That's interesting. I'm really unfortunate. I think that's really unfortunate for him as a player because it seems like this team, coaching-wise, with Stan Van Gundy, come on, get rid of Eric Bledsoe. Also, Legion Hoops, the Pelicans are finalizing a deal to send J.J. Redick to the Dallas Mavericks, so it is now going to be announced that it's official. I wonder what they are giving up. I know Seth Curry, you're a big fan of him now on your Philadelphia 76ers. So do you think that's going to really help out the Dallas Mavericks playoff push, or do you think this is kind of just
my God, how many open threes is J.J. Redick going to get playing with the best playmaker in the NBA, Luka Doncic? That's an amazing pickup for them. I am so happy about that. I think the Mavericks are a team on maybe the biggest rise in the league right now. They've got such an easy schedule to end out the year. They've been playing so well lately. The Dallas Mavericks will win a playoff series this year. I don't know if that's a bold prediction or not, but I think the Dallas Mavericks will win a playoff series this year. They will upset whether it's the Clippers, whether it's the Jazz, whether it's the Suns. They will upset one of those teams.
It's crazy. 2 more minutes remaining with the NBA trade deadline. We haven't seen Kyle Lowry's name. We haven't seen Victor Oladipo's name. And now the third. Yes, I was going to say Andre Drummond. As you were talking about the Dallas Mavericks, if Andre Drummond gets bought out, if I'm Dallas, moving Porzingis to the 4 and having Drummond at the 5, I think that could even put that team over the hump. I know they play Dwight Powell a lot, Willie Cauley-Stein at the 5. I think that would be very, very interesting. But it's crazy stuff. I'm watching this live stream right now, getting refreshed. The Pelicans will keep Lonzo Ball as he enters restricted free agency, as we went over. 1 minute left and remaining. Is Kyle Lowry going to end up staying
we'll have
Raptor?
we'll have to stay on for like normally sometimes deals come out a little bit late, so we'll have to stay on for about 10 minutes afterwards just to see if anything comes out late, as sometimes does. But I don't know, man. I don't see.
And we
Kyle
just got
Lowry
breaking
is
news.
staying?
The Andre Drummond and the Cavs will agree to a buyout. That is the breaking
Really?
news.
Yeah.
So now Andre Drummond is not going to be a member of the Cavaliers. We just mentioned possibly Dallas Mavericks being the move for him, but let's see. And 3:00 has now arrived. So possibly if another trade comes out, Kyle Lowry to the Sixers.
Kyle, you asshole! Oh my God! Don't hurt my heart like that. Oh, you're gonna give me a heart attack over here.
we will see. I am shocked that what's it called? That we never saw Victor Oladipo. I saw that there was a tweet that Victor Oladipo practiced with the Houston Rockets this morning, but besides that, I'm really sorry about. I'm really upset about the fact that Victor Oladipo was going to stay with the Rockets. I was really hoping that he would get moved and they'd run a lineup of Wall and Kevin Porter Jr. in the backcourt. Wait, real quick before until any other trades come out. Any thoughts on
all these assets and the Rockets didn't make a single trade today? Are you kidding me? That organization is garbage. I'm sorry. What the hell have they been doing over the last 6 months? They just keep messing up over and over again. If Sam Presti was in control of that front office, the Rockets would be probably have the best future in the league right now. If any competent GM was in front of that. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm like stuttering right now. I'm so frustrated at some of the stuff going on right now. Victor Oladipo and Kyle Lowry should have been moved, and I it's just so frustrating that they're not, because I think they would have been huge pieces on what could have been championship teams.
Now, do you see either of them possibly getting bought out? Just a report. John Collins staying, Lonzo Ball staying, Andre Drummond bought out. Do you see either Victor Oladipo or Kyle Lowry getting bought out for the rest of the season possibly, or do you just see them sticking with the teams that they're on, unfortunately, as we just discussed?
Yeah.
I
don't know, man. I can't even guess anymore. I think they should, but they won't, because they're the Rockets, and they just.
The Mavericks will also acquire Trey Lyles from the Spurs in a multi-team deal. So the Mavericks get J.J. Redick and Trey Lyles to end the trade deadline. I think everyone was really excited for this trade deadline. And unless a report comes out in the next 3 to 8 minutes, it looks like we got those players that we really hyped up and getting traded. We'll sell. And the thing I'm thinking right now is, imagine if there's about a week or a week goes by or something, and Kyle Lowry gets bought out, and they could have gotten Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, and 2 first-round picks. I would just be absolutely shocked. I see you staring at your phone right now, looking at looking and hoping that there's a trade that gets announced, but it doesn't. Do you now? I know you made the post on Backcourt Press about your Eastern Conference and Western Conference standings. Do these teams not possibly, like the Raptors, not making really any big moves? They cleared 2 roster spots for what seems like absolutely nothing. And
you can. I was gonna say you can pretty much. The only thing I would switch really in the East is I would put the Bulls in there over the Raptors at this point. Raptors will not even be in the play-in game, which is, talk about a drop-off. They really have almost the same team as last year, minus like Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol. And they went from the second-best team in the East to a bottom-5 team in the East. Really pathetic on their part. I don't know how much that impacts my opinion of Nick Nurse as a coach, because they're a talented enough team that they should be in the top 10, and very disappointing that they're not. And I think the Bulls obviously will make a jump in the East. I know I didn't have this at the time, but I think Milwaukee still is a very good shot at ending as the number 1 seed in the East over Brooklyn or Philly with the way they've been playing and the way Giannis has been looking recently. But overall, the trade deadline really didn't have that much of an impact. I think it helps. I think the biggest winners are the Bulls and the Mavericks because of the J.J. Redick trade. And the Nuggets, of course. I can't forget the Nuggets.
There are still trade talks happening right now, according to Legion Hoops, where the Bulls are close to a deal to send Mo Wagner to the Boston Celtics for Daniel Tice. If the Celtics can't get any worse, they're now going to take on Mo Wagner instead of their starting center in Daniel Tice. I mean, any more thoughts on the Boston Celtics as, a team this year? Do you really think that they can make any noise in the playoffs with the starting squad that they have?
Danny Ainge should be fired. It frustrated me how much hype he's always gotten because of one trade. He made one great trade in his whole career off of that. He's been called a great GM because he was able to finesse a Nets team with an old Garnett and an old Pierce. Every move Danny Ainge has made in the last 5 years has gone wrong. And the only reason that they're winning, that they've won over the last 5 years, is because they draft well. He's a great drafter, but he doesn't know how to make a trade. He doesn't know how to improve their roster. They're going to be stuck in mediocrity. They're going to continue to be mediocre forever if they continue this. And it makes me happy as a Sixers fan, at least.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, you look back at it, Danny Ainge really, really just dropped everything. I mean, we saw it. He could have gotten a Miles Turner player, which to me puts this Celtics team in contention for a top 3 seed in the East right now, and ended up just letting Gordon Hayward walk for nothing. Even I thought Kemba Walker was going to be a name that would get talked more about in the trade deadline, but he hasn't even been mentioned once. It still says the Bulls are just in talks with Mo Wagner for Daniel Tice. Tristan Thompson, I'm shocked he didn't get traded. I saw that Tristan Thompson's been like a bad locker room player.
Hold on a second. Hornets are acquiring Golden State Warriors Brad Wanamaker.
Oh, I like Brad Wanamaker.
Dang it. Getting a return. But I think that's maybe just a piece to fill in the starting point guard role until LaMelo Ball comes back, perhaps, or come off the bench and let Devontae Graham start. I'm not sure. But definitely not the blockbuster news I was hoping for right now.
Yeah, all of a sudden, unless we see that the Hornets did trade away LaMelo Ball for Brad Wanamaker, then I'd be very interested in that deal. But I liked Brad Wanamaker on the Warriors. She was a fun player for us, but okay, I guess that's over now.
You guys had your chance at LaMelo Ball, and you guys decided to take a center instead, which is the biggest pitfall in the NBA that you can do.
I'm not giving it up. I'm not giving it up yet. Not yet.
Admit that it was a terrible decision.
It was a bad decision. To me, I don't think it was a terrible decision. As we will see, Wiseman, I think, develop into a really, really stud player in later his career. But by the way, the Dallas Mavericks have acquired JJ Redick from the Pelicans. Direct trade, no third team. So apparently the Trey Lyles thing is just completely off. But no, I wonder what they gave up to get JJ Redick. Because it seems like now it's maybe Josh Richardson will fall out of that ending rotation. Because to me, you put JJ Redick and Tim Hardaway Jr. surrounding Luka Doncic for shooting. Those two players can shoot lights out when they get hot. And then you got Kristaps. We'll see if they make the Drummond move, but still Dwight Powell, Willie Cauley-Stein, they have Boban.
As a Sixers fan, and my boy Zach Goldman in the comments can back this up for me too. I'd much rather see JJ Redick on the court than Josh Richardson. That's something we've all learned in the last 2 years.
That is true. Dang, this was a really, really underwhelming trade deadline. I think Kyle Lowry's name was brought up for an hour and a half.
I cannot believe Oladipo and Lowry have not been traded.
I'm like waiting for something to happen, even though it can't.
I'm waiting.
I don't think can happen now, but I don't even know, man. Real quick, if you had to take, say, we'll wrap it up in the next 2 to 3 minutes. I know you have class at 3:30. But if you had to take the Los Angeles Clippers as a 3 seed versus the Dallas Mavericks as a 6 seed in the first round, I know the Clippers acquired Rajon Rondo and the Mavericks acquired JJ. Who wins that series?
That's going 7 games. Don't make me choose. I want the Clippers and the Mavericks in like the Western Conference Finals or something like that. I don't want that a first round matchup. The Clippers improving drastically with the addition of Rajon Rondo. The Mavericks improving drastically.
I think it was that big of a deal.
Oh, I think it's huge. I think it is huge. It's the one thing that Kawhi and PG really need to succeed. And they've got it now. And as we saw in the playoffs last year, Rondo really elevated his performance then. Not sure if we'll be able to see that performance out of him again this year, but at least the potential is there. Wait, I just got another notification. Victor Oladipo to the Miami Heat.
No way.
Yep.
For what?
Yep. Woj has not announced it yet. But wow,
Woj,
talk
yep,
about a
I
Woj
see the
bomb.
tweet.
Woj
Yeah,
bomb,
Woj,
9 minutes.
9 minutes after the trade deadline. They finally.
Now we need a little
Hey,
Lowry action. Come on.
now, quick question for you: Where did the Miami Heat now sit in the Eastern Conference? If you're going to put them with Victor Oladipo fourth, do you think they have the team to beat the Sixers, Nets, or Bucks?
They're well equipped to beat the Sixers because Bam Adebayo is probably the only defender in the league I've seen this year that has been able to slow down Joel Embiid.
You said this year. I was going to say, Al Horford, Marcus Gasol.
No, get Al Horford's ass out of here. No, Oladipo into the Heat is huge for them, but no, it's just Jimmy Butler knows how to beat the Sixers, and Bam Adebayo can stop Embiid. So I would really not like to see that 1-4 game, but then again, I'd rather see the Heat than the Bucks or the Nets. So not too concerning for me. That's a good pickup for the Heat. It improves them overall as a team. I just want to see what they gave up. I'm very curious. Come on, Woj. Let's get to it. Man. I got places to be.
That was a blockbuster trade to end it. If the Kyle Lowry does not end up getting moved, does the NBA really allow this though? Like that's what I'm confused about. 9 minutes after the deadline, they finally make the deal. Do you think that?
The deal was probably made before the deadline, and it's finally coming out now.
That is true. Now, if the Miami Heat gave up Duncan Robinson or Kendrick Nunn, how do you think this affects their future? Obviously, they're kind of going older now with like signing Dragic, Bam Adebayo.
No,
Jimmy Butler.
I bet it's Kendrick Nunn, Precious Achiuwa, and probably a first or second. Official, the Raptors are keeping Kyle Lowry.
Well, there goes all that talk. Were you hoping for a last minute trade to the Sixers?
The Raptors are terrible. What a shitty organization. Oh my god.
That's rough. I'm shocked that they really didn't end up making any moves.
We'll end this as soon as we see what the full details of the Oladipo trade are. Need to leave for like 5 or 6 minutes or so.
Kyle Lowry is staying on the Toronto Raptors and will enter free agency this summer. So instead of getting something for him and getting a great package in what was offered, they're going to just let him possibly walk or do a sign and trade. I'd be shocked if Kyle Lowry actually just walked away from that organization and didn't at least give them something back in a sign and trade. But that might be better for you now as a Sixers fan if you think about it, because of the fact that Kyle Lowry is making upwards of $30 million a year, so maybe he'll end up signing for a little bit cheaper than that, and you guys could use your trade or not trade exception, but your smaller deal on another 3-and-D type player. But so you don't see the Raptors making any noise for the rest of the season?
Oh fuck, no, not a chance. Not a chance. They. I'm frustrated. I was so convinced that Kyle Lowry would be a Sixer by the end of today. The fact that it's not happening is terrible. Come on, you trade Terrence Davis and Norman Powell, and you keep your 35-year-old point guard. Are you kidding me? How stupid is that? It's so dumb.
Yeah, that's absolutely shocking to me to see that the Raptors are really going to stick in this this like mid-tier team, not even rebuilds, just like mid-tier trying to compete but not going to compete.
I hope the Raptors miss the playoffs for the next 10 seasons straight. They deserve it. They deserve it.
So now to end the podcast, if you had to choose to own a team, are you choosing the Toronto Raptors or the Sacramento Kings?
The Kings, because of my boy Tyrese Halliburton.
Fair enough. Thank you all for watching us do a live track of the trade deadline. We will be updating everything. We're going to make a post actually tonight grading all of the events that happened today during the trade deadline on Backcourt Press on Instagram. Please follow that. If you came here from Backcourt Press on the Instagram page, thank you. We're trying to grow at a drastic amount right now. It's been amazing, the support we've been recently getting on Backcourt Press through our promotions and just shout outs and everything like that. But thank you all for tuning in.
Hold on a second.
Oh, maybe
we're ending it. I thought we were waiting for the Heat details to come out.
Oh, that is, I did forget about that. Yeah. Are we going to get another Woj bomb last minute with 14 minutes after, or?
I don't know. We'll see. I'll give it I'll give it another 2 to 3 minutes, and then if it doesn't come out by then, we'll dip. But man,
this is the podcast to be at for
so
days like today.
disappointing. Yeah, man, I don't know. Overall, biggest winners of the trade deadline. Who are you saying? Nuggets, Bulls.
I'd probably
hold on a second. It just came out. Victor Oladipo for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk in a draft swap.
What? They kept all their young players. Listen, that is an A+ for the Miami Heat and an absolute F for the Houston Rockets. They could have gotten so much more for that. I am shocked that they actually just Draymond Green tweeted Rondo to the Clippers, best trade today. Obviously, yep. I think Rondo really is going to have a big impact on that Clippers team. The Eastern Conference, man, it's going to be a toss-up. I'm shocked that the Boston Celtics didn't make any more moves after Evan Fournier. I don't think that's going to be the answer. The Toronto Raptors, two teams we saw in the Eastern Conference Finals just 2 years ago, and now it seems like both their teams are falling off and not really making the moves they needed to compete with top-tier teams. If you had to
throw the Heat in there for the biggest winners.
Yes, Heat in there.
They got a lot of
Nuggets in there
for free.
They
got Bielitsa too. Bielitsa
who's a great replacement of Kelly Olynyk.
Upgrade over Olynyk and Myers Leonard.
Wow, Houston could have at least gotten a first-round pick out of it. Not even more than just a swap. I mean,
who's the worst organization? Who's the lesser organization right now, Houston or Toronto?
I have to go with Toronto right now, man. I don't think you know why? Because to me now they're going to sit in the same position that the Orlando Magic have for the past 5 years. They're going to stay around a 7, 8, 9 seed, not be a mid-tier team, not work through the draft. They're going to lose players to free agency, sign role players. They're going to try. Pascal Siakam's going to turn into Nikola Vucevic in about 1 season. So I'm very disappointed. Ooh, actually, I completely agree with that right now. Vooch going to the Chicago Bulls. Yeah, biggest winners from today: Chicago Bulls, Miami Heat, and Denver Nuggets. Biggest losers today:
Los Angeles Clippers. Throw them in there. They deserve it.
Biggest losers today:
the Toronto Raptors, the Houston Rockets, the Boston Celtics, and the Philadelphia 76ers.
Thank you all for tuning in. It's been a great Backcourt Press episode. Thank you to I-95 for always having us. If you guys can't follow us on Instagram, it's been a blast. Trade deadline.
Wait, one more thing. Golden State Warriors, another trade. Marquise Chris to the Spurs.
4. Marquise Chris is out for the year. I don't. A big deal. That means that just tells me I can't believe that trades are still coming out right now. Wow, the Rockets really gave up Victor Oladipo, and the best piece they got back was Kelly Olynyk. Yeah. Thank you all for watching. It's been fun and entertaining. We will do this next year for the trade deadline again. Hopefully we're getting more viewership next year. But thank you all for watching. We will catch you guys in the next episode.
Thank you, Kyle and Kayla. Go.
Yes, thank you. That was and Zach Goldman for the comments. It was amazing. Have a good rest of your days and have a good rest of your week, everyone.